All right, everyone, we are set for an exciting day in the stock market tomorrow. But before we get into that, we have some big things to talk about from today. Looking at the stock market today, it was not too good, and we saw basically all industries in the red by a decent amount. In this video, we're going to go over all the important things you need to know, some of the best plays going into tomorrow, and then towards the end of today's video, we have a very interesting big money trade for about $1.35 million. So make sure to stick with us, but Tom, let's get right into today's video.
Yeah, it was just a pretty rough day overall. We saw a lot of stocks fall down, a lot of growth stocks were down. And I noticed that these growth stocks were specifically down a lot, along with a lot of these China plays. Some of these China stocks like BABA was down a lot. JD was actually down 11% this morning, as some of this bad China news is just starting to, I think, take effect onto some of these stocks here with all those balloons and everything like that came over. But we saw that big drop down with SPY this morning, Mike. Yesterday, what did we talk about pretty much time and time again whenever we talked about the overall market was that big 404 support. And we talked about if that 404 support broke, we'll probably see a move down to around 400. And we actually saw that play out perfectly this morning. So we saw a gap down very early on. We opened under 404. And then we actually tested 404 within the first 30 minutes to an hour of opening. And then ever since that touch there, the SPY was pretty much down all day long. So that huge support came into play for us once again. And we saw a perfect move down to $400. We actually closed just under 400. So I will say I'm actually pretty worried heading into tomorrow, especially with all this downwards movement that we're seeing. And man, Mike, I don't think I've seen a red heat map like this bad in the red in a while. I mean, this was just every tech stock got killed today. And Tesla was down 5%. And all the big ones like Amazon, Google, Apple, and Microsoft were all down 2% plus.
Nothing's safe, Tom. I mean, it's not even just the tech stocks. Whether you're looking at healthcare stocks or bank stocks or anything else, they're taking a beating. So what's interesting is honestly, there wasn't any groundbreaking news that really made all industries fall today. It was just I really think part of it was that the market's been kind of overextended for a little bit now. And at the same time, it's not like we have any great news either. I know there was some war escalation news from Putin last night, and that could have definitely had an impact too.
Yeah, definitely. I heard some nuclear stuff like that going on. So it's pretty crazy to see him kind of backing off some of those nuclear treaties. Sounds like it's getting pretty scary over there. I know Biden's over in Warsaw right now. I think he spoke today too. So keep that stuff on the radar. There's always those outliers with those black swan events. And I know it's a scary time out there with all these crazy events going on. And talking about crazy events, Mike, we have even crazier events tomorrow, probably, with the FOMC minutes coming out. And then we have huge earnings and after hours, too, with NVIDIA, Lucid, Unity, Etsy, and Teladoc. Those are some crazy growth stocks. We even have Baidu before open. But I think the big thing will be those FOMC minutes. So really watch those guys at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We'll get into some of these earnings here in a second. And we do have some NVIDIA news. But, Mike, these FOMC minutes are always very, very important. And it might give us an insight into how the Feds are looking maybe at their next meeting for some rate hikes and what they're looking at in the economy overall.
Yeah, and depending on who you ask, the members of the Federal Reserve are arguably some of the most powerful people on the planet. And basically what we're going to have tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time is the FOMC minutes event, just like Tom said. And this is essentially just going to be a recap of their previous meeting when they decided to increase interest rates yet again. Depending on the nitty gritty details from that meeting, that can definitely influence the market in a big way. So definitely be prepared for extra volatility on that front.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, but that's going to be huge. Then we have that big NVIDIA stuff going on as well. So we have the big earnings with NVIDIA tomorrow, and NVIDIA actually had some huge news tonight as well, where they're actually looking to do a deal with Microsoft. So this is awesome. NVIDIA and Microsoft are doing a deal to bring a lot of games onto the GeForce Now game streaming service. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what this is, essentially you can stream games from computers in the cloud or servers in the cloud straight to your TV, straight to your computer, straight to different platforms, and you're able to play these games with top-notch graphics, good FPS and stuff like that. And even if your computer is not the best, you'll be able to do it with this subscription. Now, looking at the subscription, it's around $20 a month. There's a few different things you can get for it, but there's a ton of games on the list right now. It says over 1,500 are available. And with this deal, they're going to add even more into this. So it sounds really cool, Mike. It should be good for NVIDIA, should be good for Microsoft. And it might even be good for Activision, because as it said in that article, NVIDIA is supporting that Microsoft Activision merger, and the dollar, or I should say like the dollar cost amount that they're paying for Activision is somewhere up around $90 a share. So, we're at 77 right now. If the deal goes through, that would be a really big arbitrage event, Mike. I feel like this is actually a pretty good opportunity for Activision if, this maybe pushes regulators over the edge a little bit more. It's all going to depend on Activision, though, what those regulators do. But the big news was between Microsoft and NVIDIA, of course. But as we know, Microsoft is trying to buy Activision.
For sure. And what's worth noting when looking at Activision is right now the stock is around $77 a share, and the official merger buyout price is actually at $95 a share. So if you're someone who really thinks that this buyout between Microsoft and Activision will go through, you can buy the stock right now for $77, and if it gets bought out for $95, you can make around a 23% return, and Microsoft will buy the shares right from you. The only risk, though, is that if the deal doesn't go through, Activision stock could be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, it really is. Honestly, that thing would probably tank all the way back down to like that $60, $56 support down there. I would not be surprised if it tanked, if this ends up not going through. And whenever I was reading the article, Mike, I actually saw some stuff that said that today Microsoft's president actually met with some EU officials in a last-ditch effort to stop regulators from blocking the takeover. So interesting. They were actually meeting today about it. So I don't know. It sounds like a very interesting thing going on. Either way, it should definitely be good for NVIDIA and Microsoft. I'm hoping that it helps this Activision deal, though, because I feel like that's a really big arbitrage opportunity, Mike. I know, I don't know who's all in this one. I believe I saw that Warren Buffett's actually in this one, isn't he?
Yeah, you know it. So Warren Buffett actually has a 7.7% stake in Activision Blizzard, ticker symbol ATVI. So it's definitely one to keep on your radar going forward.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. A 7.7% stake. He's even getting into the arbitrage opportunity here. So I kind of like this one, Mike. And, you think a big guy like him might have some inside information. I don't know who he's talking to or what his analysts know, but I know that he's probably sitting there thinking that this one might happen. So I do like that, and I hope that this deal just helps it go through even more. But talking about the rest of the stocks for tomorrow, Mike, we actually have Lucid, Unity, Etsy, Teladoc, and Sunrun tomorrow and after hours too. I'll tell you, a lot of people today were talking about Lucid, and I think that's a very interesting one, especially given how this stock has been moving lately. Like, we had that huge breakout recently. We had that huge green day back on January 27th where this stock ran all the way up to $17. Now we're trading around $9, as it looks like it's kind of like a falling knife here. We also have Teladoc reporting and a few others. So I don't know, Mike, what's your favorite for tomorrow night?
For tomorrow, let's go back to the calendar for a second. I'm going to have to say NVIDIA. Like, how can you not? They're such a crazy stock, and they always have great movement. So NVIDIA is going to be close on my radar for tomorrow. Over the past couple months, it's recovered quite a bit. But I'll tell you, in the short term, it is looking just a little bit weak.
Yeah, it definitely is. And today it fell under a huge support around 208. I even see a little bit more support here, kind of like where we are in after hours, around 206 to 206.50. So watch this one really close. Like, looking at this chart, Mike, if these earnings don't wow investors, we could see this thing drop. Now, the earnings, they could be okay. They might beat by a little bit, but if they don't wow with how much this thing's up in the short term, I think we could see a pullback down to 200 or possibly even a little bit lower. So be very careful. I'll definitely be watching Lucid very closely, like I said as well. But Mike, there's just a lot of big stuff tomorrow. We have all these earnings. We have the FOMC minutes tomorrow night. So it's going to be a very volatile day. I'd expect some chop to come into the market, especially with us being right around 400. But if we get some nice price action like we did today, there is a ton of opportunity. Like that opportunity, those opportunities for puts early on today were amazing, not just on the overall market, but just on a ton of stocks. Like almost any growth stock fell today besides AMC. I'll tell you that the meme stock kind of did pretty well. I'll give it that.
True that. All right, well, with that being said, Tom, let's get into some setups for tomorrow. I am watching bank stocks very closely. More specifically, I'm watching Bank of America, BAC. Basically, I've been seeing a ton of bearish put flow through a bunch of different bank stocks over like the past couple weeks, and I've seen a lot of like puts being bought on bank ETFs as well, and Bank of America is looking pretty weak. So over the next couple days, I have a very close eye on a lot of bank stocks, including Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, ticker symbol DB, and then JP Morgan, all to the downside. If the market's weak, these stocks can definitely slide.
Yeah, and back on February 12th, we actually saw some, well, I should say, like you said, you've been seeing a lot of bearish flow come in lately, but we actually highlighted one on the video a couple weeks ago on February 12th. Someone put 1.2 million into those Deutsche Bank 12 strike puts. So we'll have to see how those end up playing out. It seems like that 12 area might start breaking here soon. So definitely a big thing with these financial stocks going on. And I know those were dipping today, and I'm actually looking for Oxy and some of these oil stocks to also dip. That heat map was terrible today. Like you said, it seemed like the market couldn't really hide. Not even these oil stocks could hide. Some were up, some were down, but most of the oil ones like Chevron and Oxy had some bad moves. And if Oxy ends up breaking this big support here at like $59.50 to $60, I think there could be a huge move to the downside on this one. So Oxy is just so overextended on this yearly chart. I'm kind of watching for us to start to trade back down towards like 52 to 50. I think that could be a pretty good pullback there towards the bottom of that range that they were in. And I would say like the beginning of 22 there.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is actually Home Depot, ticker symbol HD. This stock got destroyed on earnings today, and it's looking for a potential earnings continuation play where we just see like a flood down. So basically with these earnings plays, every now and then we see an earnings continuation where the stock just keeps up this bearish momentum for days after the earnings release. So the earnings release was this morning. Basically tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a close eye on Home Depot to see if that same level of just overwhelming bearish momentum sticks around. And if it does, I can definitely see Home Depot going lower.
Yeah, I could too. And I would not be surprised if it happened. There was a big support that recently broke around like 312, 313. So I'll definitely keep it on the radar too, Mike, especially with those earnings. These earnings have been insane lately in both directions. It just depends on how the company does. I'll be definitely watching Palantir for tomorrow too. And I know I talked about this one last night, and I wanted to kind of highlight it here because I was watching this $9 support and for a potential move below there, kind of like with the SPY. And that drop down this morning was something else. We got destroyed under 9, fell all the way down to 850, even a little bit lower there, which was our target from yesterday too. So overall, great price action. I'll be watching for another potential drop, maybe a retest of 820 or even 760 down there if the drop is bad enough. But it looks like Palantir's actually given back some gains from their earnings, Mike. They had that nice continuation for a few days, but it's just starting to fall off with all these other growth stocks dying.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, with that being said, let's get right into the momentum plays for tomorrow. With the first one, we have Tesla to the downside.
TSLA right back under $200 once again. Go ahead and make them break below 196. That's a pretty big support.
All right, with the next one, we have PDD also to the downside.
Yeah, these China stocks were looking rough, and I've been waiting for them to fall, Mike, with this weather balloon news. Go ahead and make them fall under 83.70.
And with the last one, we have DAL or Delta Airlines also to the downside.
Yeah, these poor airlines here today. Go ahead and make them break under 36.80.
All right, so we're watching DAL, PDD, and TSLA for potential day trades to the downside tomorrow, only if they break below the levels Tom listed. But it is now time for my favorite part of the video, and that is the big money trade of the day. Today we had $1.35 million go into the Boyle 5 strike call options that expire on April 21st of 2023. So Boyle is actually a natural gas ETF, and it's actually 2x leveraged. So basically, if natural gas goes up, this will also go up, but it'll go up at, twice the pace, times 2. So looking at Boyle, this stock got obliterated over the past year. Right now, the stock's lingering right around $4.40, you can say, and it has not all-time highs, it has yearly highs of $140.50 that it made back in June of 2022. So it's been pretty rough to say the least. But either way, there's a ton of volume coming into this one. It's oversold on the, I guess you could say just the charts. And basically we have some big money trader betting that this stock's about to see at least a decent pop up. And I can see it, So in this situation, the big money trader wants Boyle to go as high as possible. The higher it goes, the more millions they'll make. But, really, I mean, even if there's just a pop back up to like $10 or so, Tom, that could be pretty big for this call option trade.
Yeah, definitely could, especially being that 5 strike. They actually got pretty close to the money for being such a low price stock like this. So yeah, if that thing starts flying up, this could be great. And what I really like about Boyle that I think a lot of people might overlook is just remember that natural gas has been going crazy lately because of all the stuff with Russia over the past couple years. So just keep in mind, if something starts to happen over in Ukraine again, or if Russia goes on an offensive, I know Putin even talked yesterday or a couple days ago about backing out of that nuclear treaty and all that stuff. I mean, that could possibly throw another wrench into natural gas. So just keep your eyes on natural gas. I think Boyle could be an awesome play, and this should be a good one to follow. So I like that, Mike. And these commodities sometimes start to go insane. And with how overextended natural gas is to the downside, I would not be surprised if it started pulling back up.
Exactly. So I wouldn't call this the safest play in the world, but, it's high risk, but the reward is definitely, it definitely catches my attention. We'll say that. So either way, it'll be close on my watch list going forward. I really like the risk reward, and it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, natural gas is a crazy commodity. And like I said, that Russia situation is just, I can't believe it. Like if we go to that natural gas futures chart here on the NYMEX, let's go to that daily. Cause I mean, let's see that again. Like what was that on a percentage wise? And this is actually futures here. So like pretty much from like the beginning of 2021 till, the middle of 2022 at highs. I mean, natural gas went up 300%, guys, 300%. We don't even need to see that to see Boyle move up. All we need to see now is maybe, like you said, Mike, maybe just like a nice, like 25, even a 30% uptrend would be crazy for Boyle.
Yeah. All righty. Well, Tom, for tomorrow, we have some exciting earnings and some exciting events with the FOMC. Stocks are at a crucial point right now. We're seeing a lot of selling pressure. Do you have any last minute thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to point out one last thing here. With the FOMC minutes coming out tomorrow, I just wanted to kind of point out how the 2-year yield is actually extending all the way back up right now, back to around highs, right as the SPY is dipping under 400. I'm kind of curious, Mike. I actually have seen some articles lately. I know the St. Louis Fed President Bullard actually was trying to, he actually approved of a 50 basis point rate hike in the last Fed meeting. And some of those Fed members talked about a 50 basis point rate hike being their preferred number right now. So I don't know, maybe that's like making some of these yields go up. Maybe that's spooking the markets a little bit, but it's not looking good. Yields are going up. SPY starting to dip under 400 here. And on this daily, it looks like it's selling off pretty hard. So be very vigilant over the next couple days and keep your eyes on UVXY. I know Mike mentioned this yesterday, and man, this thing popped off.
You know it. All right. Well, before we close out, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And we post all the time. Last but not least, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, D Stonks. You've been in the chat for 2.5 years now, and you're super active to this day. So keep it up. It's awesome to have you in the chat. Besides that, guys, let's have an amazing week.